everybody, welcome to our webinar. So today we're going to be talking about, oh, this is not the image I was supposed to be showing you. This is the one. So my name is Mike and I'm a teacher for Vizacademy. Vizacademy is a rendering school that will teach you how to create beautiful renders in less than 7 weeks. So guys, how have you been? It's been a while, but unfortunately a lot of stuff happened both in my professional and personal life. I'm not going to be getting into it, but obviously we're going to be talking about the good stuff. So one of the good news that I've got for you, I'm going to be attending World Visualization Festival in Warsaw. I'm going to be a speaker there. At the same time, since I am a speaker there, we also will be part of next installment of 3D Awards. So you probably want to get into it because right now the new contest is about to start, and well, since it's going to be soon announced, I just wanted to give you a heads up that there's going to be a lot of new exciting categories. So if you're thinking about participating in the contest that can win you nice prizes, and thank you 3ds Max for doing this. So again, I guess I'm going to just get this pop-up from time to time whenever I stream. So I recently changed my license provider, and for that reason I'm getting this really annoying pop-up all the time. So that's one of the things. Guys, welcome. I see that we've got Katarzyna, we've got Armchair 07, Danielle. Hey, it's my Daniel, and we've got Teben Villa, we've got Archlife, and everybody else who just joins in. Please say hello in the chat. I always appreciate keeping our chat alive. Also, clicking the icons helps. So this really helps bring more people into our streams, and those are typically a little bit small, but we want to make sure that we're going to make them bigger and bigger each time. So today we're going to be modeling this chair as per one of our viewers' request. Well, she reached out to me and introduced this beautiful model that I think everybody's going to enjoy having in their library. What I wanted to say is, hey, Pratnik, hello, Lazy. We're going to be talking about this, so thank you for this suggestion. If you guys have other suggestions for our channel or our content, feel free to leave a comment or reach out to us either by social media like Instagram, Facebook, or even TikTok right now. And we're going to try to build whatever we can. So thank you very much, and I think Kasia is with us in the audience, so again, thank you. Okay, so what are we going to be starting with, and what exactly is this model? Oh, by the way, guys, tell me if you can hear me well, because last time somebody said that there's something wrong with my microphone, so just making sure that you can hear me. Going further, and now, whenever you're going to be modeling any kind of 3D object, you first need to analyze what the object really is, what it is built off of, and can we make it simpler and simplify it before commencing to something let's say irreversible. Loud and clear. Okay, nice to know that. So what are we going to do here? What should we be thinking about first? Well, you want to just put on your thinking cap and start visualizing in your brain the success you're going to get. No, honestly, we're going to be trying to name the shapes like we were in the elementary school. So obviously this is going to be some kind of box, right? So we can see this part as one, but it grows into something bigger because it's the whole thing. So this is pretty much going to be just one box, right? So this whole area. Then we've got this object, which can be described in almost the same way, but the trick is that this object converts into a letter T But then again, we also have the same situation here at the seating area. So it's also going to be somewhat of a letter T. So before we even start modeling, we can analyze it to a point where we understand that the model itself doesn't need to be very complex and complicated. It's how we built it and what exact methods we're going to be using to get to the point will really determine what we will receive. So first thing I want to talk about is the possible topology. For example, when dealing with something like this, we're going to be obviously starting with a shape like that, right? So it's going to be just a simple box, and at this point, it's going to be kind of, let's say, boring. But if we're actually going to start modeling, we know that this is supposed to be rounded. And if we add it to Turbo Smooth, this is going to be a very bad moment because 3ds Max is going to say, hey, you know what? I hate you. That's what 3ds Max is going to say, not me. So if we try doing this exact thing, so let's just create this topology and add Turbo Smooth to it, 3ds Max is going to just say, hey, you know what, I kind of don't know what to do here. But it also solves the problem for us. It's showing us a possible topology that we could use to get rounder topology, or let's say geometry. So that's a good hint to have. Often when I don't know what to do with a model, I try to just approximate the shape to get it to a point where I know that Turbo Smooth is going to show me the way. And it's not a lazy way. It's just that if you have a tool that allows you to, that thinks for you to some extent, why not just make it do the work for you as well? So in that case, going back to our model here, what we could do is, for example, lead our topology in this manner, where we're going to have those quads nicely packed in here. So this is going to be our base model. Then we're going to just continue with the lines, continue and continue, right? So this is going to be a somewhat of a bad spot because we still need to make sure that this area doesn't get out of hand, because we either will be building a huge line that goes all the way up and we're going to be left with some weird stuff in here, or we're going to have to figure out a nice way of reducing this triangle possibly. So in order to do so, we're going to try the method with Turbo Smooth, but first let's recreate that topology that I just built with a little bit cleaner drawing. So now this line will go slight forward, this line will go slight forward, and this one is going to go top and top. So we're left with a very large quad. So we're going to be connecting it and connecting it here. Then we're just going to go here, here, and we now are in clear. So that pretty much is going to be the golden solution for this kind of problem. But is this kind of topology allowed when 5 vertices or 5 edges meet at one point? Yes, it's totally allowed. It's not going to have a problem with our model, or at least we're not going to have a problem with it. Happy to stream today at Tenebris. Nice to have you. It's always a pleasure to see you on our stream. So how have you been? By the way, PUBG boy, how are you? Did you win some games recently? Because I'm guessing the PUBG is about the game, right? No, your voice is fine, thank you. So pretty much that's the hardest element of this whole thing, or is it? We still need to understand that this whole chair is going to be made out of sections, and those sections are going to be hard to control if we're not going to split them. So this is all going to be a separate section that first we're going to model as one, and then we're going to try to split them in order to get the right results. Along the way, I'm going to try to show you the right topology methodology, but the whole idea and the, let's say, main thing that you should take away from all of my lessons is that topology doesn't matter at all nobody who says that topology matters knows what they're talking about, because topology only will have any significance if you're going to be using the loops that are part of the modifiers. So honestly, it's just not going to have any impact. Glad to see you alive. I mean online. Both are fine. Both are fine. Online and alive, it means a lot to me. First, let's try to make sure that our references that we're going to be using are somewhat will have the same size. You can use any kind of lines if you want to. I mean, I got the Epic pen to help me out with this small task, but you might as well just use any 3ds Max tool to draw lines in there. So I'm just going to be scaling this to better suit my references to make sure that those are more or less the same size. This is essentially going to make the whole process slightly easier, but you can never escape the fact that the model itself or the photos are going to be slightly at an angle. So don't use references as, those are just guidelines, references, suggestions, nothing really to worry about. I'm from Manur from Egypt. You are the best. Thank you, Manir. Sorry for misreading your name. It's just dyslexia going through my brain at times. So welcome, and hope you enjoyed your stay. Okay, so where do we start? What would be the first element we create? I would assume that just a regular box that we drew as the first object is going to be the best idea. Then we can convert it into editable poly and start from there. Because it is an editable poly, I'm going to try to copy it as an instance into another viewport, into another side of my object. Making sure to rotate it by 90 degrees exactly, I'm just going to place it somewhere in the position where the armrest is. So let's ensure that we're actually looking at the top view in orthographic. Oh, sorry. Let's rotate that in orthographic, because that's going to make it a little bit learner from Brad. Nice to have you, and good to have you. You make things simple. It's only about making things, understanding it. So if we understand what we're doing and we're not guessing ourselves, we're going to really make everything easier. At this point, we have two options. We're either going to be modeling the sitting area separately and the rest is going to be just another part, or we can just start with a larger, bulkier model and then split it when we're ready. And I choose to go for the latter, so we're going to be splitting it later on. So first, let's create this line, and it's going to allow us to get a little bit into the position where we can now build or approximate the sitting area. So that's going to be quite an easy task to do. Also, what I want you to think about, did I just, no, it's okay. And next thing that I want you to think about is, well, adding the back, or let's say you know what, wait a second, this is, okay, so this is the left side, this is the middle part. Okay, so I should have been rotating it in this sense. Okay, so this is going to now look better. So yeah. That's exactly what I needed. So now we need to make sure that we've got the back sorted. So to make that happen, we're just going to do one extrusion and we're going to continue with another one. So pretty much that's the thing, right? Because I want to keep the topology as clean as possible for as long as I can, I'm going to try to just quickly and swiftly extrude it. And now you can see that we're basically done with the whole shape, or let's say the main idea behind the chair, because we've got the frontal part, we've got the armrest, and we definitely overextended here, but we're going to have a little bit of a go. And pretty much that's the shape, right? So what is going to be our main idea here? Well, first of all, we need to make sure that this whole part is going to be also unified. So let's make it happen by shift dragging it a little bit further. So now everything is still just a box with potentially one harder extrusion. So nothing so far should be problematic, but this is supposed to be beginner friendly. So I'm going to remind you now that to do this kind of movement, you have to do a hold shift and move the polygon you have selected. Also, what I'd like to remember is that the settings that I have for snaps is vertex and midpoint, plus I'm using the enable axis constraint because that is pretty much the most important thing that you can do for the axis constraint. Save alert, no, that's too early, but I'm still going to save it just so we can continue. Now, I think I need to grab that and go here, and now we're going to go for start 001, so we know that we're just getting started with our model. Because of the way we're going to be dealing with this whole thing, we definitely do not need this area, as it's only going to be confusing us further. Thank you for being a positive influence on my career and as ArcViz artist. You have always given me important and detailed knowledge for free. Pratnik, I'm really happy to hear that. No matter how low you think are feeling in life, always know you brought a real meaningful change in someone's life, and that too for free. Whoa, who does that nowadays? Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Pratnik. I really appreciate it, and I never imagined that I'm really going to have that much influence on people, and I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you. So at this point, we kind of need to either decide if we want to split the model already or continue refining the parts up until we really are forced to do so. So I'm going to still go with the references. So the references we're using right now are quite simple, right? So the model is supposed to have the T-shape on the bottom, and it's going to have a rounded up edges. This is going to be the tricky part that we have to think about to make it look good, as this particular element is going to require us to just do some extra topology that almost overlaps. So that's going to be a good thing to know, that the almost part is, what we're going to be focusing on. As for all of the elements at the bottom, that's just the easiest ever. So we're going to look into it in a second. So let's just start with adding some kind of detail. So as I want to make sure that this is going to have that nice chamfer, we're going to do just that. Let's add a chamfer and enlarge it a little bit. Then we're going to make sure that it's set to at least 1. And as the reference suggests, we're going to need a couple more values. So chamfer, where's the chamfer? Now, this always happens when I'm online. This never happens when I'm just silently working and talking to myself. Mike, now you have to click something. So this is going to allow us to get this nice chamfer, and here we are. Okay, so because we're definitely going to need this area to make sense, and we also need chamfer around here, I'm going to add almost the same type of chamfer in this area, as it's supposed to be nice and round. This area is also supposed to be nice and round, but I want this to be treated differently, in a sense that we're going to be adding different splits in here. So that's going to be retopologized in a second, and I'm going to show you why we want to start with all of those parts together and then maybe add some amendments instead of just starting with different boxes. First of all, it's going to ensure that all of the parts are going to be fitting, and second of all, it's just going to be slightly easier to control. So at this point, I want to add another loop in here, so we're going to be able to get a bit of extrusion like that, but it's going to also force this element to move. So since we've got this selection, I'm going to go for slight bevel in this area. So we're going to no longer be restrained with the elements at hand. So we're just going to do this extrusion and add this small movement. So once we actually get to a point where we need to add those elements poking from one another, it is going to be a piece of cake for us, because you can see now that it just makes it a little bit easier to control. So let's see what Turbo Smooth has to say about that. So let's make this a little bit smaller before we do it. Okay, now Turbo Smooth is going to mess up the whole model, but you can see that this area looks really nice and smooth. And we can see that, well, this is definitely going to need more iterations. We can see that this area is getting a little bit better. So we're basically going to continue with it. We're definitely going to be using a lot of cut tool, and the cut tool is going to be really, really helpful in such manners. Slow modeling is very helpful for beginners to create this type of modeling. Thanks to Mike for creating this kind of webinars, and that helps every time. Thank you. Aaron, hi to you too. Can you help perhaps? I have a Logitech mouse set middle mouse button to correctly, but my pen is stuck when I move a mouse left right. Can you show customized settings mouse I'm on? Customized settings, you mean the preferences? What exactly would you like me to show you? Because I made no amendments at all to any changes to any clicks in my 3ds Max, so I'm honestly not sure what you want me to show you at the moment. Okay, so this is going to be our main part that we need to continue with, and we kind of need to also make it go inside there. So this is going to be the best moment to split this part already. So we're going to grab that, and this is the whole area that we're going to be dealing with when we will be talking about the armchair. So I mean armrest. So we're going to detach this, okay, and we're done. So pretty much now the Turbo Smooth is still going to make a huge mess out of it, but it's no longer going to be as messy as it was, because now it controls itself on its own. It became sentient. So let's just continue. Alt-2, Alt-2, and finally, let's retopologize this a little bit. The best way of adding and taking away topology to such models is using inset, because that pretty much does the half of the work for you. You can see that the topology really nicely flows here. The minus side is that it's going to create those extra edges outside, and those can be really easily and quickly get rid of by simply deleting them. The minus side is that you always have to do this extra cleaning, and I quite frankly don't like it that much, but it's a nice method to at least know about. Now we're going to continue with this shape, and we're going to be changing this or welding this. So once again, we're going to be adding a support loop to make sure that the model itself doesn't blow up, because now this is going to help us while turbo smoothing and to not make too much changes in this area. Still, it is going to be a good idea to continue this topology as it goes, and we're probably going to retopologize it slightly to make it even more intelligent, but at the moment we still need to do the same thing on the opposite side. So here we are, we're fixing it, and we're just going to be continuing with the topology, welding it together. So Control A and make sure that those areas are really nicely welded. So Turbo Smooth is now going to take care of all the problems, and once we start adding the Turbo Smooth and working with the stretches, you can see that this is going to actually look like a nice bulge that the initial model or the reference image already had. We could also retopologize it in a different manner, so this would be connected that way, but it's not going to bring us any realistic benefit, as the topology flow doesn't matter that much. So if I do this, and remove a couple of lines and retopologize it, this is not really going to bring anything, but here we can see that the softer transition happens, so we might actually be tempted by that. But is it necessary? No, it's just, well, if you like it, you can go for it, but, well, I don't like it, so I don't. And in this case, it's also going to create one of those situations where you have this, let's say, pentagon, and you can see that now the topology looks a little bit weird, but it's just an option to explore. Okay, so let's continue with our cuts. So we're going to cut this through, so perfecto. And now we're going to continue with another cut and perfecto. So we've got this type of topology, and this type of diamond is something that you have to understand that this is pretty much all of your pillows, this is all of your armrests, this is pretty much everything that you're going to be doing. Can you go through the smoothing groups too a little bit if possible? Smoothing groups are, let's say, not necessary for this model, especially that we're going to be using Turbo Smooth. So I don't think we're going to need to go for it. But to the best of my knowledge, the smoothing groups are best to be understood as faking the roundness. So long story short, whenever the object is going to be smoothed, instead of just showing us the polygons, the smoothing groups are going to try to blend together based on the curvature of the initial object. Most of the time it's going to try to pretend to be cylindrical or spherical, because the algorithm is going to try to do it exactly that. It's mostly used to optimize models that are low poly. It helped a lot in development of plenty of games and plenty of videos, or let's say movies that you've seen. But the whole idea, or let's say the biggest plus of it, is that you can add multiple smoothing groups to one object and potentially force different looks on it by just selecting a couple of vertices. So potentially, if I'm going to select this, I can now deselect smoothing group number 1 and add a number 2. So this way, this one chunk, although it has exactly the same topology, it's going to look different. So if you want to make everything indistinguishably smooth, you're going to be adding one smoothing group to everything. If you want to have distinguishable surfaces, you're going to be splitting those together. You can also mix them and make them transition from one another, but it's a broader topic that I don't want to necessarily go into. When are you going to have a payment facilities to take the course? When are you going to have payment facilities to take the course? Edith, if you could elaborate a little bit further on that, because I'm pretty sure we already have that, but if we're missing something, I'm open to, well, hearing some feedback, and potentially you could email us at info@Vizacademy.co.uk, and that way we're going to be able to maybe make something more suitable for you, because obviously we want you to join us as a student. I mean, to customize interface mouse, sorry for not being clear, wondering when you move the mesh, do you get the hand? No, I click the middle mouse button each time when I move when I want to move something, so that's why we're getting that. Hi, nice to see you again. Every time I learn new things from you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for joining. So this is going to be our bread and butter. This is going to be the most important type of topology, just regular quad meshing to make everything nice and smooth. And everything else is just going to be partially built from there. So now you can see that we've got the side done. It's supposed to be slightly, let's say, flattened, but we're going to make it more curvy as the model suggests that. So we need at least one line here, and now I'm going to be moving this part lower. So we have this nice curvature. I want to exaggerate this a little bit because obviously it's going to need this, we need this in our lives. So, okay, let's move it. Now, you can see me modeling or moving the elements and the rest stayed behind, which potentially would mean that our model is now unusable. And you would be right if not the fact that this is the most primitive type of model that we can just go back and move the polygons that we're interested in and just make them click again. We're still going to be making sure that this part is going to have nice chamfer at the back, so it looks a little bit better, because those are supposed to be separate elements, but we're just getting started. So, okay, let's enlarge this extrusion. So I want this to be more exaggerated. To do that, I'm going to go to View and Local, and locally just move it slightly like that. Maybe leave this one behind, and let's just move it so that way everything is going to be nicely and very uniquely moving. So if you're going to mess up like I did, Alt-2 to make sure that it's that the set flow is going to take care of your topology. So it's right here, and you can see that topology is getting sorted. So now if we go back to our models turbo smooth option, we're going to see that now it neatly follows what we needed. Okay, so everything is sorted at this armrest. So how about we take care of the sitting area, because that one seems weird. But is it weird or is it not? It's simple, just like everything else. So I'm definitely not going to need any of the bottom. So for that, I have a solution. Yes, it's going to be delete, but I delete it after I added this inset. Why? Because I still want some of that nice looking looping below the deck, so it's just not going to suddenly cut out of the existence. So let's delete this as well. Come on. Okay, and now this stays, and we're going to just work with that. Look how easy it suddenly got, because, whoa, I just made a mistake. We're going to fix it in post, I guess. Yeah, so, oh, that's nasty. Let's detach this, because that wasn't planned. Okay, we're going to reattach it in a second, and we're going to just add this and detach it, because that's our part number 2. So we have our base already, and we know what we're after, so let's just add the bread and butter. So here we're going to go for inset, and we've got it. So we already established that 3ds Max is going to kind of help us in some situations by showing us the most optimal geometry for some of the objects. And that again can happen here. If we add Turbo Smooth, you're going to see that this is pretty much what I wanted, but I just needed to see it and visualize it. Okay, so I move here, then this needs a little bit of sorting. That's the part where Turbo Smooth kind of isn't the optimal solution, but it's going to be good enough for us. So I'm going to need another loop in here. So why? Because I don't want this area to be deformed too much. The open edge already is going to protect it, but I also want to make sure that the geometry is going to be somewhat symmetrical. So for that, let's use a little bit of cutting. So cut, let's go here and here. Now here goes to this place, and we need to delete that part at the back and all of this at the bottom, because we inset it, and as you already know, inset can do this and will do it because it can. So let's make sure to change this. Okay, and let's add another small element. So do we need to go inside in here? Well, yes and no. If we want to ensure that our model is not going to have any visual problems, we could just add this line here. So the topology, once it is turbo smooth, is going to just break inside, and it's going to make a better loop for the whole thing. But do we need to do it to the very bottom? Not really, but it is going to have some impact on the object as we go, because this is going to cause a little bit of stretching or pinching. You can see that this is suboptimal, and because we didn't add the geometry as I was talking about, it's going to deform to some ludicrous amount. So we're going to need to add that extra line and make this one part kind of stiffer. So we're going to make it stiff by either moving the line that we have here closer or retopologizing this whole thing. And I think in this manner, the retopology is going to be a little bit smarter because we can just close this loop in a different way. How? Well, let's find out. And because this is not needed here, we're going to make sure that we have a line that connects. Okay, and let's move it here. Perfect connection, done. Thanks, I really want to take the course. I would love to see you, and when you join us, remind me of this webinar. So I think I'm going to be able to to recognize your name edit, but you know, it's still going to be nice to get reminded of this interaction because, well, seeing people join us after seeing me on YouTube is a huge pleasure for me. It's a little bit, I would say, it's really a me pleasure to see that people are actually joining us because they watched something on YouTube and they thought that I'm not an imposter, and I'm not suspicious. So that's actually really nice to hear from for time to time. Anyway, continuing here, we're going to just do the typical retopology or moving the elements. That's not retopologizing, it's just moving the elements. Okay, again, we could make this flow a little bit smoother if I would make this extra curve around here. So what I mean is that we could make this whole loop go like this, and then we would pretty much be forced to do exactly the same thing, but at a smaller angle. So I choose not to because honestly, it's going to still look good in Turbo Smooth, and we don't need it to be as annoying for us as normally it would be. So let's make sure to hello video edits, sorry. I think one hello is enough, and let's not spam too much because I heard that YouTube doesn't like that. So it's going to be a good thing to remind everybody. Okay, so let's add a loop here. So that way, when we add a Turbo Smooth, you're going to see a nice smoothed out version of this sitting area. Now the hardest part, because we need to make sure that it's nice and puffy, and at this point we're going to have to use some kind of modifiers for that. And what type of modifiers should we be using? Well, potential. No worries, but well, how are you? By the way, guys, tell me what brings you here. Are you using 3ds Max? Are you students, designers, architects? It's always nice to have a little bit of more conversation here. So I am always open to that. So now I want to select whole of the surface here to make sure that we can add the nice curvature that the original object has. And you can see that it's a little bit, well, curvy. So we need that. And I added a bit more geometry than I should have, but it's for a purpose. So here I select everything by going by angle, and I encourage you everybody to use this. And now we can either manually start moving those small elements and well, getting the shape we want, or we can just use some modifiers to further our goal. So I'm just going to try to use a 3x3 modifier, and what you're going to quickly notice is that at this point it doesn't work. Why is that? Because it's weird. And the weirdness comes from the fact that right now everything is super flat. So if I'm going to do this, before it reacts, it needs like billion kilometers because the scaling is a little bit off. If we're going to add a small angle around here, and I'm exaggerating now the angle, what's going to happen is that the 3x3, now since it has volume, it is actually going to be able to react to the model. So it's all about having some angle in our 3x3 modifier, but we could just, well, continue as we are, but I slightly deformed the model. Is it going to be a problem, really? I mean, no, because the deformation is super small. So I'm going to continue. Let's Control A and move it slightly forward. And now suddenly it, okay. Okay, so we're just going to Control A and move it slightly forward. Now we're just going to make sure that the topology and the curvature follows with us. So we just need to move those vertices a little bit around. The stupid and, well, the thing that I don't like about this whole process is that at the moment we're just making a pre-bulge, let's say, because we're still going to be forced to do it one more time, as the symmetry is going to always give us a bit of a hard time. And I'm going to show you how hard it is. So double click on the line at the bottom, go to symmetry modifier, and this is going to force the symmetry modifier to be added exactly at the point of our selection. And now you can see that even though we try to make it curvy, it's still going to have that very bad looking line in the middle. So potentially I've actually added too many edges all around this object, but I'm not going to be caring about this yet. We're going to fix it in a second. I guess we can just do it this. Shift X to make sure that we're adding the that we're using the constraints. So Shift X, and this way I'm going to be able to move my edges freely without deforming the curvature of the object. A very handy tool, really. So I encourage you to use it all the time. And let's clean this up so it's just going to be more elegant, but it serves no purpose. It's just for me, so I like it more. Okay, so that's it, and now it's more readable. We pretend that we cared, and let's make sure to continue, because this part is essentially done now. We just need to do the smallest changes just to add a bit of that softness to our object. Shift X again to make sure to turn it off, and now that should have that extra softness in it. So turbo smooth, and you can see that it looks really nice. We might actually move some vertices here and there to force them to look better in a second. Hey Mike, every time I open 3ds Max, I have a set snapping to vertex and snap to frozen objects. Is there a way I do it once and it gets saved so I don't have to do it every time? Just save your workplace and make sure that you open up 3ds Max as an administrator, and potentially you might want to, before doing all of that, you potentially might want to delete your env folder so all your settings are reset. And the chances are that 3ds Max cannot open the file that saves onto, let's say, saves the UI. So please make sure to delete it. 3ds Max is going to create a new one. Make sure to open 3ds Max, add all the changes, and close 3ds Max. Do not open multiple instances of 3ds Max when you want to have some changes like that, because multiple instances are going to try to access the same file at the same time, so none of them is going to be allowed to do that, and the changes cannot be done. I'm a beginner pro max now, will be proper student anytime soon. Aaron, I'm looking forward to seeing you in our classes. Now let's continue. I think we're getting to a point where everything is a little bit too stiff and too close to one another. So I'm just going to move those around a little bit so it's easier for us. Okay, and let's stretch those out a bit more. And those are going to be manually moved, and that's always going to be just me eyeballing. So don't treat it as some kind of tricks or gospel. It's just me playing around. Alt-2 to move those that geometry slightly more automatically, and it's just going to make it look good. Okay, so we're essentially at the right point. We could continue our topology here, but we essentially don't need it as this object is now separate. But we want those two to connect the right way, so we kind of want that to follow, right? So how do we get that? We kind of need this one extra geometry part. So we're just going to actually finish this up. Okay, like a bottle. And now we target, well, this part here and Control A, all the vertices, just make sure to clean it up. And that's it. I want to also show you something that absolutely nobody uses, but it's generally a good idea because sometimes you're just going to make some mistakes on your model. And if you want to find open edges, broken loops, or something that's problematic in your 3ds Max, the good way of doing it is to select border and see what border selects. You can see that now I'm selecting the border outside, and I made this small cut here by using split, and you can clearly see that those are problematic. But sometimes you're not going to be smart enough, or you're not going to have enough time to check if you do have those in your model. Did you guys know that there's an option to actually X-view your objects? So we all know show statistics, we all know it, but now look at this. We can go to multiple edges, open edges, and look at that. We've got 45 open edges. So now we can detect what exactly are they, where they are. So, okay, I see those green lines, so I'm going to select all of those. Vertexes, weld, and we're done. This is supposed to be open, so we're going to keep it that way. And that is a super, super cool thing. And you can just turn it off at any time if you find it annoying. I was still using constraints by going to the modeling panel. My man always saves me so much time. I love you, bro. Thank you. So nice to hear you. Nice to hear that. I'm glad that it helps. Do you recommend 3ds Max 2025, or it's still not supported by most common plugins? It's already supported by most of the plugins ever. It's just that I didn't install the newer version because, quite frankly, I didn't have time, and the changes are a little bit smaller than I would like them to be. So since there's no big benefit for me of moving to the newer version, I'm just going to not do it. I mean, I will for the next webinar because I think it's time, and some of my students are using 2025, and they made a couple of changes that I need to explore before I really give my students some kind of feedback or help with their models. So it's obviously not a bad idea to switch because, well, it's not going to hurt. But it all depends on what plugins you're talking about, because, well, if you're using some kind of, let's say, snow particle mover for 3ds Max 2023, and it never got updated because the developer said, I've got more important things to do, well, you might want to keep your versions because it's steady. But I would definitely update Corona because the new Corona is cool. Have you ever used cracked versions of 3ds Max and Corona? I was lucky enough not to be forced to, but when it comes to any sort of, let's say, deep water solutions, I would say as soon as you can, try not to. Because not only it's going to help the developers create the product that you're currently using, but also it's a bit more fair. At some point when you're going to be, let's say, professional, you will understand it a little bit better that, well, people spend money on development, people spend money on product design, and, well, they need your money to continue that. And if it's going to be, well, too too much of a hassle to continue because the well, off-market solutions are too popular. Some projects died because of it. So I would say, did I use it? I was just lucky enough not to. I had this, I was lucky enough not to. For example, 3ds Max in my case, I had a perpetual license that my friend's father bought a billion years ago, and it served me for the most of my career. But I made a mistake and I installed my license with the old license, and 3ds Max guys, or let's say Autodesk, didn't like that and they still penalized me. So I had to pay my fine for inappropriately using the license. But yeah, so we're pretty much on the same boat, I guess. But in that case, it was more of my mistake of inappropriately using it than anything else. And so, okay. Bro, you are good. Thank you. I'm still using 2020, still works for me. So if you are into 2020, that's fine. And honestly, I don't feel the need to force people to use the newest and bestest software. But as for 2020 versus 2024, there is a difference in time saving of files, time loading, and it really changes how long it takes to open files. So that would be an actual benefit to you to just check it out. Hi Mike, hope you are doing well. Thank you, Mohammed, thank you very much. Hey mate, how are you? Nice to see you. I'm really glad to have you here. So we've got this model and at this moment, if I just add Turbo Smooth, we've got the arm, we've got the sitting area, and both are kind of soft. Although we've got this opening. So either I'm going to have to, that's why I forgot about this part altogether. So I could use symmetry here because why not? The model is supposed to be symmetrical anyway. But this is going to break this element. And that is why I am always hesitant when dealing with this kind of topology. Because if you're going to do this kind of funnier way of dealing with topology, you're definitely going to run into some problematic situations. So symmetry, let's go for Z-axis and flip it. Turn off Turbo Smooth, actually cut it. It's okay. And we're going to be moving this forward into this area. So this is going to be something that a lot of you will also run into. So when using symmetry and you want to move it exactly where the element is, do you just try to eyeball it? No. The first thing you do is move the object away, and then once you have the two halves visible, what's going to be possible is turn on the snap and snap to the exact part. If you're going to have this already snapped, those vertices are deleted and you cannot snap to them because those do not exist for 3ds Max. Although, if we are lucky enough, we're not going to have that problem. So convert to a double poly, and now the symmetry is creating the monstrosity that we have. So we've got a little bit of a problem here, and I'm going to fix it by welding those together. So let's scale it down. Okay, why? Oh. Okay, so the smoothing groups are really acting up, so weld all of that, and now we've got a clean model, and the inner part is going to take into account in a second. So, okay, I don't like what I have here. I just don't. So what do we do here? We could just continue with the lines, but that's going to be problematic for the chamfer later. So we're just going to go ahead and leave it be by converting or removing this one element, and we're going to go back to it later, or pretend that the problem never existed, and we're just going to move on with our days. That's the best solution ever. So bridge. Let's make sure to select all of that and deselect those two edges and possibly even this one. And now we're going to be able to seamlessly bridge all of that. And again, we're just going to continue having some fun with a ring. So let's just ring this together. So let's go. Connect. And we are here. So what do we do here? We're just going to be pretending that we never had a problem whatsoever, and we're just going to be bridging those. Okay, we're definitely also, we're definitely going to be forced to change this in a second because, well, that looks a little bit, well, TurboSmooth doesn't like this. We got very bad chamfer on here, but we're going to continue regardless as we normally would. Now, the backrest. Now, we're going to just continue. Okay, so this part needs to be either deleted or amended. So, yeah. As you know, the reference showed us that we're potentially going to be able to do whatever we want because we see almost nothing on the reference. And I typically tell my students that if the reference doesn't show you anything, just come up with something that makes sense. So from what I can see, there's a seam somewhere around here, and this whole part is just one gigantic box or a flat plane. So we essentially need to make sure that our main part of our armrest, actually the symmetry was okay, but just to a point, because now we need to remove this and connect it in. Pretty much we need that, right? So yeah, we're just going to continue with our modeling and remove the parts that are excess in a second. So fluffy chairs on a polar bear, lol. Okay, there's a little bit of something going on in our chat. Hi Mike, hope you are doing well. I am. Tip for anyone learning topology: print out the first Google image you get and you'll be topology god in no time. Search for understanding the basics of topology for better 3D modeling. Okay, let's check it out. We're going to be better. All of us are going to be better. Images. Oh yeah, that is good. That is definitely good. Okay, that okay, not so much. This is also cool. Yeah, that's pretty much going to be fantastic if you want to be good at topology. And in this case, I would assume that that is a good way of dealing with topology. So yeah, that's actually a valid idea. So 5 tips, and somebody just stole it. Ezeta, okay. This is a nice forum, by the way. Okay, let's continue. We were supposed to start doing our model, and we fluffy chairs on polar bear. Yeah, I'm on Corona cracked version. Should I upgrade to the latest Corona, which will be paid since it has many assets cloud-based? So do you think it will be worth it, price to value wise? Well, it depends. I would say that yes, obviously. 100%, because I use it and it pays my bills. It really helps me. But I cannot tell you exactly that. Well, I don't know what your rates are. I don't know how much you earn. I don't know if that's not going to ruin you, because if you have to resort to well, get your software from a different source, I'm guessing you're probably not doing too well financially. So for me, it doesn't matter much if you are or not using the latest and most, well, I would say recommended version of 3ds Max, but honestly, as soon as you can, try going legal. That's all. That's all I can give you. That is really going to help you. Also, the cloud-based assets, yes, they're worth it. I honestly think that all of that is saving me a ton of work, a ton of time, and it just helps. Not only the props, but the plans. I stopped using all of the assets that I have on my computer because there's so many here. I still reach to some of the Max trees or some models that specific models that I need to download from the website that I use, the repositories, but most of the time I just don't, and I'm really glad about that because it makes my life so much easier. Okay, so going back to our 3ds Max modeling, I've been using V-Ray for so long now, I don't want to change. Well, as I was saying, as I was talking to the chaos people when I was visiting Bulgaria, they said one thing. It's the hardest thing with innovation is making the users move to a new software, and it proves itself self all the time, all the time. You don't need to, but at some point, if you're not going to at least learn new technology, you're going to be left behind. That's it. So you don't need to switch to Corona per se, but at least be open-minded to learn what it is, what it can do. Maybe it can close gaps that you have right now in your workflow. This is something that I seen on the internet, and I think the guy named Tor said it about the AI. I'm probably going to paraphrase it really badly, but if let's say let's not talk about the AI, but just generally new technology. So if the new technology is coming and it's coming here and it's going to take your job, right, or make your job obsolete. So this is the failure, right? So okay. Now, if you're going to also allow it by not learning about the new technology that's coming, the outcome is that you pretty much lost in both cases because the new technology came and you didn't learn anything. If the new technology is coming and and it's going to potentially threaten your job, but you learn about it, well, nothing wrong happened because you now possess the ability to use the new technology, right? So you win. If for example, you're going to have a situation where, wait a second, this is not supposed to be that. If the new technology is still coming and you're not and it's not taking your job, and or it's not going to have a lot of impact, and you didn't learn anything, well, nothing happened. You're in square one. You didn't learn anything. You lost. Again, this is a loss for you. And the next possibility, it's not going to take your job, but you learned it, and it's actually made your work a little bit easier because you learned something new. You won again. And the only two cases in which you win is when you start learning new technologies. So it's not about switching from Viri to Corona, 3ds Max to Blender. It's not being left behind that makes you actually good. So that's definitely going to be something that I would like you to consider, because otherwise, what's the point? Thanks going legal then. I'm really glad to hear that. Thanks, man. No, you're not. No, you're not. Stop faking. Can you activate poly count and vertices? Yeah. So number 7. The thing is that using Mental Ray before Viri, and I can't even load all my Mental Ray projects anymore without upgrading all the textures. What is the beauty about the external render? What if the people who make Max suddenly remove Corona like they removed Mental Ray? So as far as I know, as long as the developers are, let's say, making money, they also make money for the 3ds Max people. It works in a way that, hey, if the tool that I'm using is in 3ds Max, I'm going to be paying for 3ds Max. So they won't remove it. And Mental Ray was not exactly removed, it was upgraded to Arnold, which is by margins 10 or 15 times faster than Mental Ray was. So after so many years upgrading some of the projects, that if your projects are not some kind of NASA level quality, and I mean like really something like Veta Digital level, you by now should have been able to at least translate them from one render engine to another. So your argument that what if they delete it? Well, what if? Well, you're going to switch to another software, that's all. Nothing is going to happen. But if you're going to still remain using just one software forever, and not upgrade your toolkit, again, you're going to be left behind. And I'm not saying this to just tell you, hey, sign up to our training. No, it's more than that. It's just do yourself a favor. Make your life easier. Maybe the tool that you're going to learn is actually, as I said, close the gaps you have in your workflow. That's it. Because I know that there are things that I can do in V-Ray that I cannot do in Corona. I know that there are things that you can do in Corona that you cannot do in V-Ray. And that always works. In Blender, when you're using Blender, there are some tools that aren't native to 3ds Max, and that's fine. That's just that's the way it is, and that's always going to be good, because you're actually going to get a better type of tools. More competition means that we're going to have a little bit better and more, let's say, I don't like this exact word, but more diverse skill set. So that's pretty much going to help us. So being versatile is the way to go. It's just it. Okay, so let's flow this a little bit further. Nice. 2023. If the mouse isn't working correctly in 3ds Max, what would you recommend? It's been a fresh install, very frustrating. So which version of 3ds Max is it exactly? And have you tried looking up the exact issue you're facing right now over the internet? Because, well, you asking a question here is probably going to be a good idea, but it's also going to be related to, for example, this operating system you're using, or the hardware you're using even. Why and how is the hardware related to that? Well, most importantly, it's going to have a little bit of impact on how the texture is, how the model is going to, how the software is going to be reacting, because maybe you're using parallels, and that's going to be entirely parallels fault, not 3ds Max. So that could be it. Because I honestly never ever experienced any problems with a mouse, and that is a little bit of a surprise for me. I'm underscore on a converter. It's not 100%, but still good. Yeah, but there's only so many options you can convert one render engine to another. I remember years ago there was a Brazil render engine called Brazil. I've installed it on my computer, and I know that this is a huge coincidence because I found an online model from the movie. Somebody who worked on the Transformers shared a model that was made for the movie, and I downloaded it because they were sharing it, and maybe it was a fake, but the Brazil render or something like that, I don't remember exact name, but once I opened the file and started rendering with it, my disk burned. And I know that this was a huge coincidence, but yeah, that was just an anecdote that I wanted to share with you because, well, things can happen. Anyway, here we are in the situation where we just made the most important part of the model, but it looks really bad because it doesn't have the closure here. Also, this is supposed to be one extra edge that we're going to be manipulating. And well, honestly, the part of the model already looks good because some elements are potentially going to be good enough for us to work with. So let's turn off the turbo smooth on all of them. Okay. And this at the moment looks fine, but we need to sort this topology, disconnect that part, and make sure that it's going to have the right, let's say, topology to work with. Here, we don't actually need that back, but we're definitely going to have to make sure that we have at least one extra loop in here, so we can add the curvature like we were supposed to, and actually work with it. So inset. Okay, make this a bit outside, and now this is going to be the back. So we're obviously going to have a little bit easier time masking or hiding that part that we don't really want to deal with, as why would we? It's just going to cost us time. We can always solve it later And at this point, I just don't want to. So let's continue. Deleting that. Okay. Have you tried Cinema 4D? I did, and the reason why I didn't like it is that it didn't allow for multiple mapping channels. It was a little bit slow on grouping, and most importantly, the Cinema 4D at the moment when I was using it, although it had a great integration with After Effects, I thought that it was meant for movies, video effects, and not exactly what I do, so ArcViz. So I just gave up and didn't pursue it too far, but it's a valid software. I think yeah, I even had the trial installed like a year ago, but I test it from time to time what's going on in the software, and then I uninstall it. But now I'm just holding to it for way too long, and I just didn't uninstall it for no reason at all. So yeah, that's me just being lazy here. Okay, continuing our topology. Okay, so we're removing this and we're going to be protecting that. And this is going to ensure that once we add a turbo smooth, this is no longer going to blow up like it did a second ago. Now it's going to look good because once we are done with our main model, we're going to be adding the sewing. So it's going to be smooth or linear, depending on what we would prefer. I think I made a mistake, so we're going to delete this and we're going to go ahead and remake that one selection again. Create shape from selection, linear, and now turbo smooth copy, perfect. And what I want to do here is go for rendering and enable it, paste. So now you can see that this is going to make a nice sewing, and it's going to hide all of the imperfections that never happened, and our model was perfect from the from the get-go. But I'm just giving you so far so good, lol. Time from it, thanks, have launch deck. I had to change the mouse settings. First, let it try normally. I had trouble using my middle mouse button on the Lenovo laptop at first, but it sorted it. So far so good, lol. So far so good. So far so good, lol. that cracks me up. Okay, so we've got this armchair, and pretty much if we now try adding if we try adding turbo smooth to all of that, it's potentially going to just sort itself out, because most of the problems that we had are no longer there. We're going to be forced to move a couple of vertices here and there. For example, this one needs to go a little bit to the back and maybe somewhat around here. So the transition is going to be softer and smoother. So once we add the turbo smooth, we still have this nice element, but this whole part is also going to have the same type of sewing, so it's just going to be easier for us. But in this case, the edge is going to go away quite far, because it's actually almost at let's say 90 degrees angle. So in this case, I'm going to add the same editable poly modifier on top of it and actually use this to get shape from selected object like that. And this way it's going to be just a little bit more intelligent, because now we already have the deformed version of that. So create shape, sorry. Yeah, going to have to read what I'm doing. So yeah, we've got the lines, we've got the elements, sewing is looking good, and now we just need to switch to clay to see exactly what we're dealing with. Now, since the model is going to allow us to do a couple of extra amendments, I'm going to use this time to definitely fix the bottom, because that looks bad. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm blind. So let's delete this. Okay, and now we just need to delete the bottom altogether. Not altogether, but just a little bit altogether. Okay, now we've got it, and we move it down, and we move it down. We could use it, leave it the way it is, but now there's going to be that skirt on the bottom, so we're actually will. We could, and we will. Okay, so do we need to add any kind of topology here to force any sort of additional and nicer transitions. We could, but it's just going to be hidden anyway. Is there a hotkey for switching to clay fast? No, you have to set it up on your own. Unfortunately, there's no such hotkey as far as I know. There are some tools that will allow you to set icons for different type of views, but again, it's a sort of a plugin, so I just don't use it that often. And I shy away from using any plugins because I am actually teaching people how to use 3ds Max. I generally try to make sure to work on the most bare bones version of 3ds Max as possible, so nobody is forced to install some kind of weird plugins that they will be paying for extra money. By the way, guys, our stream is well going well, and I would like you to help us because, well, we're doing it for you. So if you could click a couple of likes on our video right now, do some hearts and spam the chat with some kind of whatever. This is always going to have help because algorithm likes that. This is engagement and you're my audience after all, so you have to be engaged, and in that case I want you to spam a little bit. This is going to really help us, and I kid you not, this is really important for all the channels out there. So if you are visiting somebody's live streams like you're doing right now, it really greatly is appreciated to have that extra engagement from you guys. I would be really loving it. How are you? How are you and Render doing? Well, I've promised that I'm going to install a second camera just to show you Render from time to time. I'm just going to take a photo of him, just so you know where he is. So, okay. So here's Render, just next to me. I'm not gonna wake him up because he already hates me doing webinars while he could have been outside, right? We're just going to continue. Now, let's go ahead and we're fine. Nothing of, let's say, nothing worth sharing happened recently, but well, a lot is happening in, I think, everybody's life is. So I'm not going to be singling out myself, but well, I was always surprised that our students have so many things going on when 1 second after they join our training, because some family members get sick, they get well, some sort of new jobs. All of that happened always right after they started our training, and for the first time I was the one that could have said the same thing right after our current group started. All the things happened to me at once, and I was even considering not starting the group for a second, but it wasn't really that bad. So it all got sorted out in a positive manner. So we kind of made the model usable as it is right now. We need this line, we need that line, and we're pretty much going to be continuing. I think we need to also do some nicer profiling for this part because it's supposed to be a bit more smoother. So let's move this element in. So it's going to have a better transition. Okay, that's it. And this one here needs to have also some sort of a transition. So now it's no longer going to be as bulky. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted, but maybe we could do even more. So let's move this line as well a little bit. So 1 second. Okay, looking good. I like this. Now this is pod racing. Okay. By the way, anything interesting happening in your lives, guys? For example, any marriages, any new jobs, anything, any new clients that you are proud of, or maybe just you did some project that you were wondering if you're going to actually make it. Delete the center line with will smooth a lot. I mean, the center line is okay because it doesn't break the model, and I'm still going to have to move something towards this to get that working. And I kept it that way because I wanted to have that extra smoothness, but honestly, why not? It's going to just transition some of the parts of the model. It was overcrowded anyway, so it's essentially a good idea. So we've got the half of the model. Perfect. Now we need to do the skirting at the bottom. So we're just going to do a bit of a shape transition. So let's go ahead and start here and create shape from selection. Okay, linear. Now this is going to be our start. Let's continue here. Perfect. And we're pretty much going to do the same thing here, just so we connect it. And since the bottom actually shouldn't be even following this line, I'm going to delete this because the skirting, right? So we're deleting that. By the way, when you're going to be doing something similar, turn off the cap, because I just didn't for some reason, and I forgot that it's going to mess up the ends of your splines if those are not closed loops. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and either quad cap it and close it, but that's not going to help because we're going to have to add more segments, and then it actually saves it. But why would we actually need this if we're actually going to open it and add symmetry? So in this case, it's going to be a better way of doing it. I had fun building a car dashboard recently that took some modeling. Oh, that sounds super exciting. By the way, Time Prophet, if you could, send it to us. Next week, we're going to have a review for, people working in the 3D industry. I would love to look into your model because you visit our webinars so often, and I think you're actually more advanced user than you lead us to believe. So I would love to see your work, just to know a little bit better who you are and what brings you here. Maybe you could send a couple of works so we can talk about it. Okay, so being here, I'm going to open the cap. So we need to look at this, right? So it's one line like this, and then some kind of shape-ish thingy, and from that the line actually grows, right? So we're going to have to create a rope and another rope to solve it, and for that we kind of need this shape, but we're going to do it smart because I kind of want to pretend that I am. So let's go ahead and not use the regular methods of regular textures. Well, textures would be really fine, but we can also try something extra, because in patterns we've got chains and we can also create ropes, but I'm not sure if there are any ropes in here done already. So I don't think, there is some rope and we're going to be using it. So this is going to be a good baseline for what we're going to be doing. So this is the model itself, and how about we just steal some of it? But honestly, I'm just going to do it in a second. Because those sewings are already looking good, we're going to just delete the turbo smooth from everything. Okay, everything is deleted. Perfect. So now everything is cleaned up. We're not going to be touching those elements, as those are going to, just remain the way they are. So we might as well just leave them be. But it's definitely going to be optimized at some point. So we can try doing some optimization, because in some cases, models like this can be problematic if we're not going to take care of them. So we can go for normalized spline and check if we can do something about it. Sometimes it's going to be actually a, opposite of what we're trying, because, well, we're going to have to lower the length between each edge. But at the same time, it might be a good idea to have this done because it's going to have more uniform distribution. And in some cases, it's a good idea. Maybe not this time because, well, it's still dense, you can see it, but it's not going to have great impact. So I walk this back and we're going to just continue adding the line at the bottom. So doing the line to do the line, we can do one of three things. We're either going to be using a texture with some kind of tricky mapping, or we're going to be using corona pattern. Corona pattern could be a good idea, but it's going to prevent us from converting this object to editable poly, and we kind of don't want that. There's another thing, because we also need those elements at the bottom. So how do we add that? That's definitely going to be scatter. So in both cases, I kind of need to have this line done. So we're going to be now adding the symmetry modifier, so we can pretty much finish up the modeling part at this point. Flip this. Yeah. Just going to move it here. Perfecto. Convert to editable poly. Always when using symmetry, for some reason 3ds Max can spawn some weird entities. For example, that's totally not my mistake, I hope. So we're just going to be collapsing this and fixing the topology just so it's not going to look that bad. Okay, and sometimes it's going to have additional problems along the way. For example, it's going to spawn a vertex midway. So always check your models along along the symmetry line, because it won't always do it, but it may do it from time to time. So symmetry again, symmetry, and z-axis, and flip it a flip. Okay, perfect. Convert to editable poly, and now we're checking if we have any problems with geometry. We do, because not everything got welded. So we're just going to grab this and just make sure that happens. What does collapse do? Thank you for that question. So imagine that you're going to be in a situation that I am right now. You want to add the weld, or there are a couple of vertices like here, right? And you want to weld them. And you want to weld them really badly, and you will have to add some really large values. Welding is supposed to be precise, so you want to keep this in mind that, well, you don't want to add some kind of values that are going to be excessive, because then you're going to have to adjust it for the very next movement. While collapse is going to be ruthless. It's just going to, by clicking it, you're doing the exact thing as welding would do, but it's not going to calculate the distance. It's just going to collapse everything. So while welding, I can decide that, for example, I'm going to be welding only elements that are away from one another at the distance of 2 centimeters, right? So that's going to be somewhat helpful because it kind of gives you more control. But if I click collapse, done. And no matter how many vertices I'm going to select, it's just going to collapse them. So that's the main difference. Overall, they're the same, but collapse is just global and it's just going to everything. Extra vertex, symmetry line, top, bad side. Okay, let's see. What? Oh yeah, that's it. See? This is what I was talking about. 3ds Max can do exactly that. I thought that I saw it, but then I started talking and it slipped my mind. So Aaron, thank you very much. That was a nice catch. So we've got the the backrest, and I see. Never used that, thanks. Always used weld. I mean, weld isn't bad. It's good actually. So we can move this a little bit further down. This is going to go further down. This can now go a little bit towards the bottom. So we're just going to force it like this. And it's going to look more interesting once turbo's moved. Okay, so let's add the same symmetry as we did before, as z-axis for some reason, because this is the way I started the model. and flip it, because flipping flip, and convert this object to a dual poly. Okay, we're actually getting there. At some point, I lost my track and the model got a little bit distorted, but we're just going to delete everything else. And we're no longer going to be looking at the reference, so we're never going to know if I made a mistake. That's just the way I work. You don't look back, you don't acknowledge your mistakes, and that way you win, because nobody can prove anything to you. Obviously, I'm joking, but yeah, if I made mistakes, we're going to have to deal with them later. Okay, and now, maybe the bulge is looking bad, but we're going to relax that top in a second. Let's continue, because now we were supposed to add the lines. First, let's make sure to convert the splines, or at least connect them. So, thank you, spline. Let's attach the other one. Perfect. Now, we kind of want to only mirror this, because in this case, well, it's the only good course of action. So let's mirror that, realign them. Okay, and look at that. All of that just for those splines. Perfect. Now let's re-add this and reattach it. It took more time than I expected, but I talk too much, guys. Some of you leave comments that I should focus more on what I'm doing and stop talking, but yeah, I'm going to keep talking, because after all, that's what you came here for, to probably listen to me, but I doubt it's a good idea. No, honestly, I really appreciate you being here. Currently, I am creating a fun short mock commercial to help diversify my service options. Nice! Mistakes are part of the process for sure. Channel that Bob Ross and make them happy. That's so nice. So, Tenebis, you absolutely need to show me what you're doing. Also, test or check out Chaos Vantage. If you're doing videos, it's really good. And right now, you probably will benefit from it, because Corona is, let's say, not going strong on it. That would be a wrong wording, but they treat Vantage with, I would say, respect. So that means that you can actually get really decent results out of it, and that respect that I mentioned is seen mostly by the fact that it actually is now you are able to translate a Vantage model into 3ds Max, Corona, or vice versa actually, and that kind of is awesome, because Vantage, I tested it for excessively for a while, and I'm actually thinking about making a couple of videos on it, because it is actually good. It's actually good. Okay, so I like this, I like that. I might be I like Bob Ross hair. Oh yeah, just gonna have to correct that, but I'm not sure if I got a hair curly enough, but it might be a good looks for me to just go after the legends of the industries. Now, here we are, 6, and this is going to be just attached, so everything follows. Now, to the turbo smooth. We've got it, just one more iteration, so everything is nice and smooth, and I kind of like it. So probably I need to profile this a little bit better, but now we're going to be focusing on the bottom. So unhide all, and here we are. We've got this whole loop, and we kind of need to make sure that we've got all of those springy lines and those small elements added. The best and simplest way to do it, it would be to just create line. Well, creating lines is just part of it. So first, let's create a cylinder. Make sure that the cylinder is nice and thin. So it's going to be, let's say, 1 is going to be enough. Height is going to be set to something around 50. So, okay, 50 height in centimeters, I guess. And we're just going to make sure that those elements slightly overlap one another. So we want to create 2 or 3 lines as we go. So something like this, okay? So since we're here, I made a mistake. We're going to Bob Ross it and move back a little bit, happy mistakes. We're going to just do happy instances. So now, since we've got the happy instances in, we're going to make them have a little bit of a dance. And for some reason, I forgot that I'm saying an instance and then creating a copy. So again, a happy instance. Instance is it is, and we're now going to do exactly the same thing. Perfecto. With adjusting this a little bit, we're going to be able to see it from the top view, and I'm pretty satisfied with what I've got. So that is exactly what I wanted. And now the sides definitely need to be reduced. We're going to reduce it to something around 8. 8 is enough. Now we're going to increase the height segments to something around 200, but it all depends on what you're going to be doing. I'm going to be creating the lines, so we're definitely going to make sure that all of those objects are going to remain the way they are, but we're going to create a copy that won't. So make those unique, and yes. So in this case, we're going to do the twist. Twist goes in, and we just want to go for a bit of this kind of, let's say, action. Because we were smart, but not smart enough, we made sure that this is going to have enough topology to spin and look good. But I forgot to add some kind of, let's say, finish at the end. So at the moment, it looks a little bit bald. So I'm going to stretch it slightly, so it's going to look better. Perfect. Convert to editable poly. And honestly, I could have, and I think I should have, even optimized it further, but I won't because, well, reasons. Inset this a little bit, go further, inset this again. And now this is the question to all of you. Should we be caring about the topology like this or not? Not. Thank you for the answer, and let's continue because it's going to be really super microscopic object. So not this. Let's delete. And this doesn't require any turbo smooth, I guess. So we're not going to be adding it at all. So yeah, this is going to be good enough. Yeah, I believe in it. So we still need the top to have all of those nicer endings as well. So we're just going to do this and add a couple of edges as well, like that. Perfecto. And because we're adding it, we're just going to add extrusion, but very, very thin and small. So this is going to create the illusion that we have those lines that we saw a second ago. Let's lower that. Okay, perfecto. And that way, we're going to have the endings at the top. Delete this cap because we no longer need it. And we're pretty much done with the line. So this is somewhat similar to that. We will be needing this element, and here we are with this one. So we're basically done. Copy this once. Copy as a copy. Perfect. And now, do we have easy way of copying it again? Now I'm a little bit, I should have done it earlier, but let's see. If it fits, it will end well, but if it doesn't, I'm going to just pretend that it, yeah, I planned it all the time, all along. I mean, no. Let's effect pivot only, and did it transition nicely? No, it did not. I mean, that's just my mistake because I forgot that I'm going to be making another line and I forgot to keep it there. So that's me just being sloppy at this moment and probably tired because of how long we're online already. So now let's make sure to scale this object a little bit so it fits exactly our needs. So we're just going to do this. And we're pretty much 90% done with it. I need to reposition the pivot to make sure that it's going to be exactly where I want it. And this line as alone is very boring and we kind of hate it. So to not hate it too much, we're going to make a copy of it, or two even, that will serve a different purpose or will have some extra details. So copy on number 1 and 2. Here I'm going to be adding bend modifier, so angle that a little bit, so we're definitely going to have more life in it. Number one, we'll get noise modifier. So this is going to be, again, a bit more lifelike. So let's just scale it down. Not so much, just like this. Perfect. Oh, I actually like this. Copy. And let's add this as well. So paste here. And those are going to have slight differences. So let's change the seed. Perfect. And maybe let's add a bit different value on the y-axis. Perfect. I love it. And now, number three is going to be totally different, because now we're going to be adding bend, and we're going to be adding this by, let's say, 45 degrees. So that's a lot. But I want this to have a limited effect, and that effect is going to be starting at some point. So how do we make sure that it starts at some point? Well, we first need to move the gizmo to force this behavior. So we're just going to limit that, okay, move it here, and we're just going to make sure that it's going to go like that. So as you can see, now we've got a nice line with a little bit straight looking wig, and it just looks as it's supposed to. So we got three different shapes to work with. I suppose you could use array to lay them out. Yes, that's a very good idea, but we're going to be actually using a different method that's going to be slightly better. So array is not going to allow us to randomize the position and the scale of the objects. I mean, it's going to allow all of that, but it's not going to allow us to do three objects at random. So we're going to go for the chaos scatter, because we're using Corona, and we're going to select this. By the way, I'm going to show you one extra trick in a second, but that's not something I am very comfortable with. So scatter lister, and this is the easiest way of controlling your scatters, but unfortunately they need to add one thing, the type of scatter you're going to be dealing with. So unfortunately it's not that cool. So the spline objects, we're going to distribute on object, that's going to be our spline, and here we go for instanced object 1, 2, and 3, and sorry, something, I had something in my mouth, sorry for that. Just hair flew in my mouth. Okay, so now the problem is that if we're going to have the renderability, it's going to be hard to see exactly what we're doing. 1D spline, and wait a second. Instanced objects, okay, distribute on object, 1D spline, enable, okay, spline scattering. Okay, so why are we not seeing the objects? This is okay, we're going to just continue and see what's going on, because display options, please give me the display box. No, we're going to go for full. Guys, am I doing something wrong? Because my scatter is just not reacting at all. Okay, I'm the guy who's supposed to know everything here, but is it just me being tired, or is this software just ignoring what I'm doing? Okay, let's do it again, because maybe I clicked something wrong. I don't know. 1D spline, okay. Distribute on targeted object, yes, and distribute this, this, and that. Okay, are we going to be only displaying this for the render time? Did something change in version 12, or am I just a little bit blind? Okay. Now that is weird. Spacing. What is going on? Guys, okay, so this is the weirdest thing I've ever experienced during a live stream. So my license is definitely fine. So convert to a poly. Let's check if it's going to work on, So there's something wrong with my spline as well. So maybe it's overlapping at some point. So let's check it. But okay, so that's an opening. So that's not a wrong thing to have. So a fuse weld, perfect. But there's still no indicator why it wouldn't work. So, okay, let's reset the X-form on this one as well. Convert to editable spline. Okay, but it still doesn't work. Maybe you need to convert them to poly for this work, ropes, pivot points. Yeah, I mean, pivot is okay on both objects. Reset X form is done. So this is weird. So why are you doing this to me, Mr. Spline? Okay, so oh. We're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. You know what? This is weird. Okay, so extrusion. This is weird. This never happened to me. I do not understand what happened. And quite frankly, I am a little bit lost. So we're going to reposition it. Okay, we're getting somewhere, but it just doesn't like this position. So I'm going to do a trick that I use all the time when splines are doing weird stuff. So in order to fix some of the splines in 3ds Max, you can go for rectangle, create a new shape. And now the trick is that I'm going to add this object as my shape, and it works flawlessly, right? So if it works, I'm going to convert this object to a little spline, and the working one is going to just do the unthinkable, attach the unworking one, and it suddenly works. Why? No reason. But this is just 3ds Max, I guess. So now we've got the some of our objects are being okay. Now it's working well. We're just going to continue and change this to 1 centimeter. Okay, I want to see this 1 centimeter. Looks good so far. 99. Because my pivots got realigned, I'm going to nice. Because of my pivots got realigned due to the fact that, nothing happened, we're just going to make sure to reposition that and make the reset. So now the distances are going to be even or evened out. Yep, splines, by the way, do that. Yeah, it's just splines. Now we've got this nice thing at the bottom. And in the end, we're just going to make sure to add a little bit of extra randomization. So that randomization doesn't need to be big. It's just 5%. So it's going to be more random and more interesting. The trick that I wanted to show you is not exactly a trick. It's just something that nobody uses for some reason. And I refuse to use it because I hate, with all of my heart, I hate Heron Fur in 3ds Max. It's just such an outdated modifier. But it has a cool trick up its sleeve, because if you're going to go to the tools and select instance, and for example, take this, your hair is going to change into an instances of the model that you used. And for that reason, it actually isn't the worst thing ever, because now you can pretty much create carpets or any kind of objects that will require this kind of topology in your work. The problem is that at the moment, due to the fact that the pivot was inquotient, in terms of hair and fur, it's doing a lot of, all of that is being squeezed in. So we're just going to make sure that hair and fur can actually use it. So we're going to reset the X-form again and do the opposite. So use this and add it as our hair. I was not recently, but a couple of months ago, I was doing a love room. This was a love dungeon. It was pretty much not for my personal use. It was for a client, and they wanted to have a special weird-looking wall made out of tentacle-like objects that you walk into and you're just all slimy and cozy. It was weird, but a client is a client. So I used hair and fur to manipulate it, because now to change this, you can use the splines that are in hair and fur, and it's something that you can really have a little bit of a go with, as it's a powerful tool. You obviously will have the automatic hair count loaded to something smaller, but if we increase this, you're going to see that it actually makes sense, because now it's going to be a cool fuzzy carpet, and you have this ability. So it's something, I guess. So yeah, let's delete this. Looks almost like a greeble modifier. Yeah, it does. I could even bake those stands down to normal math if you are making an animation so you don't process yeah, I mean, if I would be doing an animation, I would do all of that based on just simple splines with Corona pattern, but it's for a model, so we just could do it this way. We can now activate the Turbo Smooth for everything, and we're pretty much done. All that we are left to do is reposition some of the vertices, and I think we're not far off from the reference. Here's the reference. The object looks like this. We've got pretty much not the same curve, that I'll tell you. That one is something that we need to adjust, but that's just moving vertices, not something that's going to be hard or difficult to do. It's just, well, that. With a little bit of this. So we're basically done, but we can also remove or move some elements, and we're good to go. So now it's going to be closer to what we wanted. And yeah, this is how you can model a chair like this. The trick is to not give up, I guess, and we've got it. Next time, if we're going to get enough likes here, I would like to render this because it took a while to model. So we're going to be building the material with that sheep-ish texture on it. I'm going to show you how to map a model like this. Since we modeled it, let's just map it correctly, and let's just render it. Let's just put all the nice lights in it, and let's make sure something cool with it. But I need your cooperation on that. To make this happen, I would need you guys to give me, let's say, 1,000 likes in 3 weeks. Okay, if we're going to get there, we're going to be able to create another part. So I don't know how you're going to do it, because I'm not going to be clicking all of those likes on my own. So I would like you to click that, and we're going to be rendering this in a full studio, so everybody's going to see all the elements from one part to another, but obviously it's going to take a bit more time than just a few clicks, so we're going to try to do it next time. So here we are. It looks okay-ish. There needs to be some adjustments to the bottom part because some light is shining through, but honestly we would be able to use it. I also made a couple of tests with the let's say AIs that are so popular right now for 3D modeling, and although it didn't do a bad job, it did something. So let's save the file, Control S, perfect. So we've got this, and because of that I'm just going to take a second to load the file, and this is done by one of the AIs. So I wouldn't say that it's bad. It did a couple of nice elements here and there, but the topology was built in a couple of seconds. It's somewhat useful. I would say that it needs a bit of adjusting to fit what we need exactly, but it wasn't that bad, and it comes with a texture. Is this texture any way usable in a 3D scene? I tested it and it looks horrible, so no. But it's a possibility. It's a possibility for some of you guys, because the model is actually not the worst thing ever. So compared to ours, I would say it is, but it is actually usable to some extent. So shapes. So did we just lose our shape? No. Okay, so Control V, copy. Okay, enabling viewport, perfect, larger. And now we're going to add a turbo smooth on top of it, not noise, just turbo smooth. And I think this is going to be it for today, for tonight, or for this week, because we just went through some nice modeling, and I actually enjoyed doing this model. It was as always, a little bit all over the place. We can still adjust some elements, but the adjustments are just going to be well, moving some lines lower and some elements higher. It's something that you can do if you want to have a little bit of extra fun. Edge constraints are your friend. Yes, they are. Render, please. Do you even do ambient occlusion renders? They look so cool. I do. I do make them because it's, well, they look cool, obviously. Quick question about your program. Does all this apply to creating animations? For example, like 60 to 120 seconds videos? I'm new to all this. So, Ricardo, allow me to explain this. If you're going to be creating animation, the process of modeling is going to be just one part of the whole thing, because there is a chance that you're going to be tasked to, let's say, create animation for a company that makes the chair or something like that. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating different camera movements, a different camera pan from point A to point B, right? So you want to create animations based on movement, because that's animation. Animations. How to say this? Not description, but my God, I forgot a word. Okay, so animation means adding life, animate, to give something life. So in that case, you're going to have to understand that each movement is going to be called a frame. Each frame is going to be a separate image. For a second of video, you're going to be creating 30 images per second for good quality. Some people will also like to see 60 frames per second. So the modeling part is just one element of the whole process. It's like, if you want to make movies, do you have to know how to operate camera? Well, to some extent, you have to know what camera is, but you don't have to be perfect at it. That is why 3D studios usually have teams. One team is going to be modeling, other part is going to be texturing, other part of the team is going to be doing the lighting. Then there's animation team and there's a post-production team. All of those people will have one goal: to create a video. And do you need a large team to do all of that? No. Let's say, in-house, you can just do it all on your own, but you're going to have a little bit broader knowledge. So if you would like to create longer videos, you're going to have to, first of all, know how to render. You're going to know how to animate objects, and modeling is optional, as you can purchase models online for very cheap. So it all depends on what you would like to do, what are your budgets, and what exactly you plan on doing in the future. So thank you for the question. It was refreshing. So please make sure to keep those coming. Took me 3 months once to make 50 seconds animation. That is modeling and animating. So that also what needs to be said as well is that animation is a little bit different piece of cake, because animation is not something you're going to be paid as you would in case of regular images. Animation is expensive. That is why large movies cost hundreds of millions, because of the extra effects added. So the budgets are typically ate by the biggest actor and the effects and post-production. So marketing is only going to be part of it. So this is a big thing, and to allow you to step into the animation, you can also watch our video on the animation. It's not very well built, I'll admit that, but it at least will give you some idea, some understanding what you're getting yourself into. But just so you know, this is by no means something that I discourage you from. This animation is a lot of fun, and when I was learning how to animate stuff, how to build models, how to create facial expressions, that was so much fun. So please pursue that. It is worth it, and it's going to pay off in the long run. or mix at 24 FPS and 60 FPS for different purposes. I worked as a generalist for those. Can be tedious, but so rewarding. And you are right. And right now we're getting into new age of animation, because there are amazing tools that we can use and well, pretty much be amazed by. For example, there's Luma AI. I think I can show you that. So give me a second. Luma AI, I'm going to just load it now. So some smarter people than me already created videos on this, so I'm not going to be regurgitating this thing. Oh, so okay, this is just a short test that I did of a scene that I rendered a couple of years ago. So let me show you what it was. So okay, 1 second, guys, because since we're on the topic, I want to show you something interesting. As always, when you're looking for something, it's going to hide. Why? Because you're online and you don't want to hold anybody for too long. So look at this animation. This was rendered in a couple of hours in 3ds Max. At that time it was fairly okay, right? So it took me 3 hours to render all of that smooth and nice. This was based on just the first and the last frame of the same animation. First and the last. And the Luma came up with the frames in between, added a little bit of motion, and did this. And I would say that right now we're at the verge of something amazing, and animation in the future is going to be so cool that I just cannot wait, because you're going to have just in between frames that will possibly pick from the model's, let's say, depth information, and you're going to be just giving it render number 1, render number 2, and number 3, and it's then going to compile it in the video without actually rendering. That's going to be absolutely astonishing. Reflections take longer to render, yes. Also, okay, Britannian, we use 25 FPS. Excellent to know that, thank you. I mean, no, we use 25 and 29. We use 30. It all depends on it all depends. It's always going to be your client, not exactly, well, the area. So, guys, I think we're done for today. It was a blast. Please make sure to leave a like, and this is definitely it for today. So we're going to see each other in a week. I want to go through the reviews, because we haven't done those for a while. After 2 weeks, we're going to either do the Chaos webinar, where we will be discussing some new technologies, possibly even Chaos Vantage, because I want to do a project in Chaos Vantage from start to finish. So I think it's going to be fun to see if we can translate a small project from Corona to Vantage, and is it even easy? Is it worth it? For me, obviously. So this is it for today. Thank you very much. Leave a like. Make sure to leave a nasty comment after we're done, or a nice one would be also appreciated. The comments are super important for me, because, well, you have to go back to the video to actually leave one, and I would highly appreciate if you could, because those always help us reach more people. The more people we reach, the more videos we can make. That's pretty much the deal. Thank you very much, and see you soon in a week or so. So once again, thank you, and goodbye everybody who was so active on the chat. I really appreciate it. So goodbye, and see you soon.